when did you start listening to podcasts? What triggered it? Because obviously I'm late in technology. So I was like, it's just computer and YouTube. All my information was like YouTube.
So
YouTube,
when did you
YouTube.
start listening to podcasts?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I think all these personal development stuff, in terms of like pretty much everything, business, fitness, health, it all started with one book that I read, and I actually finished the book, and now I can't remember, but it's by Darren Hardy. Compound Effect. Have you ever
Never heard of it.
Okay. So that book is basically kind of what led me to guys like Jim Rohn, who was like I think he was the CEO or founder of Herbalife. And then you have Tony Robbins, which is the one he mentored. Well, obviously, you know who Tony Robbins is. But it all started with that book, and then it kind of branched out. And then from listening to or watching Jim Rohn's videos, by the way, he's gone. He passed away years and years ago. He said that one of the best things that you can do is read. However, I find that I don't have a lot of time. I have 4 kids, by the way.
Hashtag 4 kids.
4 kids. Oh, in the middle of a podcast. Sorry, guys. I'm in the middle of recording a podcast, but I will be home as soon as I can.
It's a big businessman.
We are.
Big businessman.
Yeah, I'm I'm in front of camera right now. I'm kind of important. So, okay, love you. Bye. All right. So I find that
kind of important right now.
So
when did you start? When did you know what a podcast was? He just learned about the cloud.
Yeah.
Then he learned about podcast.
Anyways, so that's probably 2016. So it's been
2 years.
2 years. It's only been 2 years. But I read somewhere or somehow that, you know, if you don't have time to read, or some people are more into listening than reading, I kind of enjoy both. I have a lot of books. I feel smart when I look at my collection of books. I haven't read them all yet. It's just,
I'm smart.
yeah.
Look at these books.
But yeah, right? Like I tell my wife hey, for Christmas I want this book, this, and this. I gotta read it. It's very important. So I probably have about another 8 to 9 books that I have to go through. She bought me.
Okay.
But going back to the podcast, I feel like I don't have time to read. Never really liked reading before, but after I read that book, The Compound Effect, it kind of like sparked something.
More to develop yourself.
Yeah, wanting more information, and I find that just because everything is so fast paced, that I feel like when I'm driving or when I'm showering or when I'm cooking is the time to learn, right? Because I can't really have a book in one hand and cook with the other.
Yeah.
Well, you can.
It's not very effectively.
Yeah. So.
Mine's like a little different. I'm more of just a big dork. So probably I found podcasts like 10 years ago. But I stumbled on it through iTunes, and I stumbled on it just kind of looking for stuff, or maybe, honestly, the first podcast I probably listened to was like a World of Warcraft podcast. So I wasn't looking for anything developmental. I was looking for something to listen to while I was playing the game, just to get information on it. So I found one that I liked, and then it turns out that guy who made that podcast made like a bunch of different podcasts. So that was his business. So he had like a World of Warcraft podcast. He had a podcast called Film Sack where he does like movies. So him and his boy will watch a movie and then they'll talk about it. Not even review, but just talk about it. And then his big one now is the morning stream. So he just has a morning show. It's literally like a talk show morning, where they just talk every morning. It's kind of like a replacement for the radio.
I gotcha.
Like it's no longer a radio show. It's just a morning
show.
A morning show. And then His biggest one though is his World of Warcraft podcast. It was like really big when that game first came out. And then from there, I listened to that a lot, and then I started stumbling on other things that I found were interesting in the podcast realm and stuff like that. But for me, I try to balance my time and my mind, because if I feel like I'm always trying to develop myself, I feel like I'm always working for me. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, basically anytime I'm working through Monday through Friday is like when I'm focused on, like I can develop myself and I'm focused and like, but on the weekends it's just whatever I want to listen to. Same thing with reading. So like, if I'm in the morning, I might read a developmental book. Might, if there's time, because I sleep in too much. But at nighttime, before bed, like I'll read in bed to make myself sleepy, and that's normally like a fantasy novel or something that's like playful.
I gotcha.
It's more relaxing for my mind, and it's like
that like thinking,
it's stirring thoughts. Yeah. Like lots of these like developmental books and podcasts and stuff make me reflect on past situations, reflect on future situations.
Yeah, makes you want to like get up and like write something, make notes.
Yeah, just start thinking about how I'm going to handle things in the future or how I should have done things in the past. And you just move, like it moves your brain around so much. Whereas like fantasy is more just kind of creating an imagination, like a story in my mind, and once it's done, it's done.
Now that you kind of mentioned book again, actually it wasn't podcasts that I was listening to at first. Audiobooks was the first one. So instead of reading books, because like I said, I wanted to read books.
Yeah.
So instead of reading books, I listened to books.
I found I tried to get into audiobooks too a while ago. Yeah. And when I tried to get into audiobooks, they were so dull. Like the guys who read it were like robots.
So now
it's better now.
Now that you're saying that, no, it's still like most of the books that I try and listen to.
Yeah,
it's still like that. It's like just like monotone.
Oh, it's rough sometimes.
Right,
it's real rough.
So what I found was I would listen to them, and then train of thought starts to flow, and then you're like, and then all of a sudden you get distracted by something because you just have headphones or it's playing the speaker. You look around, you lose train of thought, and because it's so
monotone, it just goes in the background.
And then it's almost like, I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes when I read and then it gets boring, like there's a part that gets boring, like you're reading the words, you know you're reading it, but like your comprehension, like I don't really understand what I just read. Yeah. So same thing, when I listen to
read the page over again, and be like, I didn't even read that. I looked at it, but I didn't read it.
Yeah. I read it, but I just didn't understand it. The comprehension part was like down there.
Yeah.
So now I think that's what made me seek to what can I listen to. Actually, I think I transitioned from there to YouTube videos, but it's more of like a review of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to get like this.
Summaries are good.
Yeah.
So Aubrey Marcus released a book, Own the Day.
Yeah.
The audiobook was 14 hours. I listened to a 45-minute summary, and I feel like I got
everything you needed. So
even this drink is out of his book. Yeah. He recommended this.
Really?
Yeah, this is his thing.
So I guess that's what kind of happened. Is like, listen to audiobooks, now it gets boring. And then I got into YouTube conversations, and then for some reason I think YouTube uses more data.
Oh yeah.
Rogers.
Video.
Uses more data when I play it, so like I'm outside and I'm trying to play or I'm driving, I'm trying to...
He doesn't know he uses more data. It's video.
I know that now. I didn't know that then.
Choose data. So bad.
So, I was like...
$200 cell phone.
Yeah, exactly, right? Well, I mean, they give you notification. I'm like, it's like, I'm into first week of this cycle of the month and I already used up my data.
Yeah.
That's why I talked to my provider and update. Anyways, so I know at this point I cannot use YouTube. Audiobooks is a little dull for me. So I'm like, what can I do?
Unless you have the right reader.
Exactly. And then that's, I guess, for long story short, I got into podcast at that point. After I'm like, YouTube doesn't work for me. Audiobooks sometimes work, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And reading a book.
I find podcasts are a little more natural because it's a little more live. It's a little bit more like relatable because it's like this guy's having conversations versus an audiobook. It's like there's a difference between like even if I was asking you questions right now, being like, so LJ, blah 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 blah. It's like it feels robotic, even if you're reading it.